Question: what are you a fan of? Is it a movie, a book, a TV show, a music group, a sports team, or maybe something less conventional? I'm Reagan.
And I'm Christian. We've spent over 10 years working in the customer service and entertainment industries. It's this experience which leads us to believe that everyone has a compelling, personal connection to the things that they are a fan of.
And we're here to uncover the secret fandoms of the Gulf Coast's VIPs. Join us as we talk with passionate fans about what they love. On this episode of Fantastic People,
I don't know if he was part of the wave of restrictions that YouTube put on child content or if he created it, but I think he had an integral part personally in throwing up these things that were getting watched by kids that calls YouTube, and they now, every time you post a video on there, it's, they're like, is this for kids and whatever.
we talk with Rick Appleyard. Rick is a member of a highly recognized family along the Gulf Coast and does video production for the Appleyard Agency, one of the oldest advertising firms in the Northwest Florida region, which was established by Rick's grandparents, John and Eleanor Appleyard, in 1959. Rick is also the creator of thehandlenews.com, which is a local satire news website. With a hand in video production, Rick spends a lot of his free time diving deep into the world of YouTube and shares with us some critique of this modern, beloved pastime. This episode of Fantastic People is sponsored by Hellcat Hangar in Pensacola, Florida. Hellcat Hangar's venture is to build a thriving network of individuals and opportunities centered around the production arts and media. They strive to provide exceptional service as a production studio, valuable insight and education, and to enrich the overall industry across the Gulf Coast. They open their doors as a business, a venue, and as a community event center, but in all manners, their doors are open to cultivate a culture of togetherness. To join the Hellcat Hangar community or reserve a time for your event, you can find them online at hellcathangar.com or call 850-341-7403.
So Rick, thanks for joining us today. You both grew up and live in Pensacola, is that correct?
Sure do.
Where did
Born and raised.
Where did you what part of Pensacola are you from?
I guess you could say probably around the Bayou Tahar area.
Oh, okay.
I spent a lot of time on the water, wakeboarding and stuff growing up around the Bayou, but now we live downtown. A lot of stuff gravitating towards downtown. Lots of excitement over there.
Yeah, I mean, it's hot commodity downtown.
Yeah.
It's a lot of rapidly growing, rapidly changing.
Yeah, very different than it was even 5 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah, I think a lot, like on an international level, I think like some crazy figure of growth in the next several decades is just all going to be in cities. And so
Yeah.
it'd be cool to see it all take place.
I think Pensacola has a really cool opportunity. This is my pitch for mayor. If I were to run for mayor of Pensacola, this would be my pitch, which is that Pensacola is the perfect small city with a big city feel, that it could be like the city of the future. Like if you wanted to create an infrastructure of like green energy, Pensacola would be a great place to try it out. That it has just enough to where we have a major ball team, or not major league, but a AA ball team, where we have a pretty sizable population, a lot of happening things going on downtown. We have a big community center. That I think there's a lot that if you were saying city planning of the future, you could experiment some of those things on Pensacola, Florida.
Yeah, I thought you were going to go Parks and Rec style. You ever see that episode? In a world. Or no, Bobby Newport.
Yeah, that would be great. I am not clever enough to immediately have gone there, but
that's
funny.
Yeah. Anyway,
so
I'll vote for you.
I appreciate that.
So I'm curious, what is it like growing up with that legacy? A patriarchal piece of the family that is connected and people know and has done a lot for the community. What is that like?
Well, I feel like I've already screwed it up. My granddad passed away last year, and he and my grandmother, we're right now right in the middle. He passed away she passed away in July, he in October, so there's like a 102-day gap there. A lot of people do, that happens. You're kind of brokenhearted, and the one person will die and the next one does. But I mean, my grandfather in his younger years actually traveled the country with healthcare after he was in World War II. And so I think by the time he had kids, he was ready to settle down, and they wanted to place roots, and he wasn't from Pensacola. And so he made being local, that was his thing, and learned about Pensacola. And I think a lot of people were kind of surprised that, he's not from Pensacola, but he was all about it. Right. And so, I kind of have, I kind of feel, I said I messed up the legacy because I'm ready to go see other places, and not to spite Pensacola, but because I know you learn from, like in our own lives, we learn about ourselves and how to be better people by looking at other people. And same with cities or whatever. We have to go travel and visit other places to see what's going right, what's going wrong. How do we learn about it? And I don't know if you guys know about CivicCon, and that in Pensacola, that's part of, I'm I guess a member of CivicCon. And so it's cool because we have all these people, experts on city planning and stuff like that to learn from, and you don't have to go travel, but it's fun to go travel too.
Yeah, I mean, that's really, you talk about, though, if your grandfather's legacy was to travel and then to discover Pensacola and want to learn about it. I think wanting to experience and learn about other cultures is a continuation of that legacy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So I don't think you're screwing it up as much as you claim to be. That is super interesting, though.
Yeah, there was, the Greatest Generation was all about saving, and I guess I eat a lot of avocado toast, so
don't we all?
Coffee every morning.
Yeah, I have never had a piece of avocado toast.
I have not.
Actually, I'm half joking.
I just think that's an interesting stereotype, because I literally know no one who's ever like, you know what I want? Avocado toast.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's not. I'm gonna say you got to be open minded. It's not bad with a little egg on top.
So I did want to ask you about this, because this is interesting. You have your private pilot's license.
I sure do.
What was that like? It's something I would love to do.
Yeah. Actually, well, we're in Pensacola, it's like aviation town. And, we went over to Crab Island in Destin one time, and this dude has like a float plane, a little seaplane type thing, and he lands right in the middle of the boats. And I was over there with my wife, soon to be wife, at the time. Her and some friends, I had like captained a pontoon boat, and I was like, all right, I'm going over there to see what this thing is about. Took a flight, and it goes back further than that. 4th grade, I wanted to be a pilot, and I never pursued it. But as of this recent time, saw that over in Crab Island, got a flight, tried to get into a flight school here, but it's primarily geared towards the military, and it's actually Sky Warriors, the place, and they have a huge military contract, and they do what's called the NIFE, Naval Introductory Flight. I forget the E, but and so they have a pipeline, and anyway, they couldn't fit me in, and I had a friend of mine got into flying, and he was helping a client of his set up a flight school, Pensacola Air, and I was like one of their first students, and it just worked out perfectly. And TJ, he runs it out of Pensacola International. It's on the GA, General Aviation side, which is like Jerry May Garden Road, the backside, and they've been great. And I've seen him grow, and TJ has a lot more planes. Anyway, the actual experience was great, and like right in the latter years of my grandparents' life. And so I would always go visit them. They live by the airport, and I'd give my granddad updates on how it was going, because, he had flown with a a dear friend of his in his healthcare days traveling the country. Pat Groner was his friend, who was a big pilot, and they would fly around the country. So he kind of cheered me on while I was trying to get the license. It took me about from May of 2020 until January of 21 when I actually got the license. And it's a real interesting process, and just like a whole community that I had never even thought about. And so just learning about the different airspaces and all sorts of stuff. There's a ton of stuff on line, and schools that help you with the ground school side of things, but the physical thing, getting in the plane and going, is, you go through a school or someone who teaches you. And so I'm really grateful to be able to have learned to do it. And yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, I tell my wife every year for my birthday, and she still hasn't ever done it. Maybe she's listening to this podcast and she'll remember for next year that what I would like for my birthday is a flying lesson.
Dude, I'm telling you, do yourself a favor. Just take a Discovery flight. Discovery flights, it's like $100-something, and they'll let you kind of take the controls. Usually they'll take you out over the beach, which is what everybody wants to do. The funny thing is the more you learn, the more, in our area in Pensacola, you go to the Northwest practice area, which is over past the paper plant. And it's sort of like, it's all rural, so you don't do much sightseeing, but it's just like driving a boat, except it's a lot more dangerous. And it's just cool because there's people that I normally would have nothing to talk to or nothing in common with. And now I'll see, we're in Pensacola, a lot of retired pilots.
Yeah, I was in the Air Force, and I worked at a fighter squadron. I spent a lot of time in, sims, and cool. I have flown on many an airplane, many places all over the world. So being around pilots all the time and experiencing, getting to travel and everything like that, it's been pretty inspirational for me to want to do it. But of course, now I've been out of the Air Force for almost a decade, and I still have never done it. So we'll see. Well, maybe one day.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your service.
Thanks.
I still have 4 more years of eligibility, but I can only fly like a drone.
Yeah.
And anyway, but yeah, I have friends that are Air Force. And anyway, have you read the Bomber Mafia or listened to the Bomber Mafia of Malcolm Gladwell? It was a pretty interesting story about, I don't read many military things, but just about the characteristics of the Air Force and how forward thinking they are. It's the newest one, I guess Space Force is now, but like, always looking ahead, and how, even the Air Force Academy, the architecture there, how it is so forward thinking. And I think that piques my interest because, all things tech and new. This is where I'm making my grandfather roll over in his grave because he's a history man. But anything Tesla or whatever new tech, I'm all about it. Like, let's automate.
I have to check that out. I like Malcolm Gladwell a whole lot, so that definitely sounds up my alley. We're not here to talk about the Air Force or for flying, though I would love to. We're actually talking about a really big topic today, which is YouTube. So, Rick, can you tell me what the attraction is for YouTube?
YouTube, I mean, it's not ubiquitous, but literally anything and everything's on there. Like, I mean, to a certain extent. So it's a very broad thing, I guess, to be a fan of. But the democratization of like media, it's really it's and these days in 2021 here, it's like we on things like Facebook sometimes seem so much like we're in the peanut gallery and really it's like, just if we went to a movie theater, it would be just a conversation of all the people talking in the theater, and YouTube is actually like, it's what's up on the screen or whatever. It's I don't know, it's so broad that I guess that's the good thing about it. Like, you can learn anything on YouTube. um I've when I had a motorcycle, I was changing the exhaust and putting like a beefier exhaust, and I'd go watch YouTube. And I think it's a dangerous thing too. Like with every invention ever, um, it often goes and creates an issue in society. Whether it's like, planes, back to aviation. Wright brothers. There were 20 good years of however many years of planes just being, something that everyone sat around and watched in awe, to being able to drop bombs on people and use as weapons of war. 3D printing now, that's a whole topic now with the ghost guns. It was like, oh cool, we get to make action figures with a 3D printer. Well, now it's like people are going to be able to make guns that could be, unregistered and on the market.
Right.
And so YouTube is a whole nother, I guess, digital version of that, where it's something that people can entertain. For me personally, I get to upload videos for my family, like because I do video work for my profession. I get to make some videos for people's birthdays and sometimes funerals, to celebrate people's lives. But on the other end of that, you have a lot of like disinformation and things where anyone has a platform, and if you get enough people to watch you, then that verifies you as being truth, right? And that's what can turn into a pretty scary situation, where people can make up whatever it is they want, and the herd follows along. So,
yeah, well, I think what's really interesting about what you said, the mass capability of entertainment in today's society is both incredible and terrifying all at the same time. And a few weeks ago, we had a guest on. We were talking about Star Trek, and talking about when Star Trek was born, there were 3 channels, and the FCC extremely controlled whatever anybody consumed. Like if it was on network TV, it had to be basically federally screened and verified. And now through the internet and through things like YouTube and Twitch and Facebook video and Instagram and TikTok and whatever, now we can discover our own. A person can make whatever content they want, and then we as an audience can discover them, and there's almost zero verification going in within that process. And that is both incredible and also absolutely dangerous. And YouTube is such a great example to me of something, and this is maybe because I don't go into too far dangerous places on YouTube, but it's not, it's to me kind of gotten by a lot of the critique like Facebook and Twitter and stuff has, even though it's probably just as guilty. But I think that the advantage with it is that it's still a content entertainee relationship, whereas Facebook, it's me and my aunt. But YouTube, there's still almost the veneer of a television channel, almost.
It's I mean, it's such an interesting business model, where all the the next hit of a unicorn $1 billion company is likely, and I'm sure all of them have been invented at this point. I could be wrong. It is where you are just the middleman, and that's all that YouTube is. I mean, they create their own premium content, but the people are the creators and the consumers. It's like Airbnb. The people are both sides. The company doesn't actually own. They're not creating all the stuff. you know, and
Right.
it's an interesting, it makes it so much easier for YouTube, I guess, as a business, or whatever, Google, Alphabet, that owns them, where they don't have the liability of a you know,
Yeah.
of the FCC or of ABC getting sued. I mean, I'm sure they still get sued out the wazoo. One of the interesting things, I hate to always go to the controversial, but over the past couple of years, because I've followed, like, early days, I guess Casey Neistat would be the first YouTuber that I really saw, and it's kind of been confirmed. I think New York Times was saying, like, he was the first one that had a quote unquote viral video, and he got
Mm.
hit by this bike in a bike lane. And I had seen Casey before on HBO when he had a show, and anyway, but to watch it evolve, and then locally, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this guy, but he's one of the YouTubers locally that's made it big, and watching the content he was making that was made for kids. He'd use like these little dolls and make funny stories, and he started it when he was 14. And if he's listening, look, sorry, I'm not trying to bash on him, but you know, and he started it when he was young, and then you can see the evolution over the years, where he grew a following as he's going into adolescence and early adulthood, and then things get way the adult themes, and like things are like racist and just hardcore, like not made for kids at all, and getting millions of hits by young kids. And you know, parents are kind of like, yeah, whatever, you know, and especially in certain areas where it's like, oh, let the kids be kids. Seeing that and seeing how many kids watch it, it was just mind blowing. And YouTube, I don't know if he was part of the wave of restrictions that YouTube put on child content, or if he created it. But I think he had an integral part personally in throwing up these things that were getting watched by kids, that calls YouTube, and they now, every time you post a video on there, it's you know, they're like, is this for kids and whatever. And you watching, he got a lot of videos demonetized. He's the kid with the Lambos. He had a Lambo with the whatever. And so good for him for being successful. It was just, I guess maybe because I'm in my 30s, I'm kind of, and I see my nieces and nephews, and I've already made all the mistakes I could make. Anyway, I've been through adolescence and been an idiot earlier. Now I'm just an old grumpy idiot. Right. Anyway, so
it's interesting. I haven't talked to him about this, but I have talked to other content creators on YouTube, local ones, some no longer local, but formerly local,
Gotcha.
about this. This was 2019. I actually led a panel at Pensacola a few years ago of YouTube content creators. And this was right around the time that the child policies were beginning to come on. And from their perspective, and again, it's such an interesting, I think it comes back to a lot of this power in the people type of thing, because they would all agree with everything you're saying. But also on the flip side, they were very nervous, because they're like, you know, what I determined to be okay for a kid is not what everyone else would determine to be for a kid. And what if I get demonetized for something that I think is perfectly okay? And while I actually think YouTube's done a pretty good job with this, I don't, some sort of regulation was required. What was interesting, though, is hearing it from different people's perspective. And because we have more control in creating content than we did 30 years ago.
Right.
There's a little more pressure on us as individuals. However, the flip side being, if this is our livelihood, YouTube, or like you said, Alphabet, Google, Big Dog still has the real control on what's happening and who gets what. And it's definitely people much smarter than me, much more responsible than I am, that have to make those decisions.
Right.
So, you know, again, YouTube, big topic. What are some maybe YouTubers or facets of YouTube that you really find yourself, you spend most of your time in?
Yeah. YouTubers, like I said, Casey Neistat was original guy on there. Rhett and Link super entertaining. I mean, they're like, and they've stayed at it. They've kept at it for so long, and they're always funny. And anyway, and they create content that's evergreen. Not to slight the local news people, but what's going on today locally is one thing, but if you're making something that's funny and I can go back 2 years later and watch and laugh at, like, that's, to me, that provides more value. And so those two, Rhett and Link, facets would be like aviation. There's a bunch of aviation YouTubers. Some are entertaining. Most are educational, where like you're going to learn a lot. Trent Palmer's one that's more of an entertaining one. He's a bush pilot out in Utah, and he just bombs around back in the mountains and lands wherever he wants. And then there's other guys like Jason Shepard. He started a whole company, teaching people how to fly. And I keep on that. I mean, I'm sounding super old by picking YouTube as what I'm a fan of, because nowadays it's all about the TikTok. But
I think it's long form media versus short form media. And that's really preferential. And I think especially we're all in our 30s here, so for millennials like us, I think there is an appeal for long form media, whereas maybe like Gen Z, it's a little more in the short form. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think in our second episode of this podcast, we talked to a podcaster, and he talked about a lot of the future of content is short form media because of how to engage new generations of people. Can you make a 2-minute podcast or something like that? And I think there is something to be said for generational preferences there, because I'm also partial to long form media. I run a podcast, so
yeah. Well, and Rick, I curious question, and maybe not the first time you experienced it because that's so long ago now, but what's maybe a YouTube video that sticks out in your brain, as a memory that you remember? One of those earlier videos that you saw and you were like, that's on YouTube, because back then we're all saying, oh, just see that video. And it's like, it was on YouTube. What's YouTube? Oh,
E-Bombs World before that or whatever. Yeah.
Right. So maybe what's one that sticks out as an early memory of YouTube?
Probably the Casey Neistat bike lanes video. If you look that one up. And then any of the Rhett and Link like music videos. They made a bunch of that, and then like Good Mythical Morning, they used to have a show that I'd watch.
So you're from, like real early days of YouTube. I mean, because Rhett and Link, they've been around since the beginning, really. I mean,
I can't. The thing is it's a screen is a screen, and a lot of the times I don't even remember. I have a terrible memory, so. You could probably go back in my Google history or something and find out what.
What was the first? What was the first for you, Chris? Or what do you remember being early on?
Man, for YouTube, it's such a hard thing because, again, our age and being engaged with the internet as much as we were, like, again, like, it's even hard for me to put like where Strong Bad, falls into Strong Bad and E-Bombs World and things like that. Those things precursed YouTube. So what was the transition for me into that? I'll be honest with you, I don't know that I know. I definitely like Harry Potter Pals is one that really sticks out. The Curious Case of the Mysterious Ticking Noise or whatever.
Yeah.
Of those being like viral videos and stuff that really come. I mean, certainly I have spent countless hours on YouTube. There used to be, for me, I would almost never listen to the radio. I would just like watch YouTube videos of things. This is before really like Spotify and Pandora come on the scene. So like I remember just like building playlists of like clips from bands playing live.
Wow. And
just have YouTube like just going. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it was a tool before there were other things that provided that service for me. I spend a ton of time watching like music videos and stuff like that on YouTube. What about you?
When I think of YouTube and its early days, I think of the Charlie bit me video.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
I don't know why. I think that was the first of the talk about viral,
Yeah.
like funny. Why is this funny? I don't know why it's funny, but it is.
Mhm.
You got to check it out. And then sharing it with other people and like saying, "Oh, have you seen it? Here? You go here, pulling it up."
Man, there's nothing worse than the conversation of I saw this video. It's so great. And then when you reenact the video, you're like, it's not funny when I tell it.
Exactly. But that's probably, I mean, I honestly, thinking about it, it's in the subconscious. Like when someone says the word YouTube, some version of that video, some image pops in my head and is associated with that word, because that's one of the first, like I said, viral things that I saw that was on, you got on YouTube. And that was very commonplace, that type of content in those early days. And I mean, it's still there. I mean, some of that still exists, but YouTube is, content creators have changed in so many ways on what's on YouTube now that I don't really think about it as a place to go to get those kinds of videos. But yeah, that's probably the first thing I remember seeing.
I know Rick was talking about how he, now it's a lot of aviation and stuff for him. Is there a niche for you that you kind of hang out in on YouTube now?
I there's a couple of Star Wars commentators or pop culture. I mean, not Star Wars, pop culture commentators, people that talk about.
We run a pop culture podcast. In a lot of ways,
and so that's probably,
there you go.
That's probably what I follow. A couple of them on Twitter, and I don't really spend a lot of time on YouTube anymore. Like I there was a phase a couple of years ago where we've had a YouTube content creator on here before, and so I was engaged with that person. I was engaged with a couple of other people on YouTube. And so I would check in. Anytime they released a video, I'd get notified. One of them I can think of is Jenny Nicholson, who really, she caught her biggest wave picking apart movies and sort of being negative and critiquing them, but with Star Wars videos and things like that. But now I follow them on Twitter, but I don't really keep up with what videos they're posting, and instructional stuff. Like, if I'm changing out, changing out the dishwasher because it broke, and I can't get a hold of my dad, to come help me or talk me through it, I'm going to just pull it up on YouTube. And there's actually, and I've watched a couple of his videos and I forget his name, but there's a guy, I think he just calls himself the YouTube dad or something like that.
Oh, I've heard about this guy.
And he literally basic stuff from teaching you how to change a tire,
change a spark plug,
all the basics, that your dad, if you don't have a dad in your life or he's missing during those formative years, this guy takes on that personality, and it's really cool. It's very nice. And so there's been a couple of times where I've had to figure out how to do something that I just didn't know how to do. And, for those that know me, my dad was not there for some of those parts of my life. And so I kind of connect with that, I guess, and I'll look it up and, I can call him now. We're reconnected, but if I can't get a hold of him, I'm looking for that guy's videos to teach me how to do this stuff.
That's good. Yeah, for me right now, it's a lot of camper videos.
Oh yeah,
I'm in a lot of. I recently bought a fifth wheel, so it's a lot of families and campers. That's what I want.
That's
places
awesome.
to take your kids.
It's funny because nowadays, kids, I think I've heard this statistic where they're, instead of being doctors and lawyers, more kids want to be YouTubers than that. And I think the scary part, and this may be something you were going to ask me later, but the scary part is, what does get views and how many people set out their dreams to be, an influencer and start on YouTube, and they're showing their lifestyle of what their life is and day to day. And they would get more views just showing how to fix a sink.
Yeah.
And, so, which is sort of sad. But,
well, and you make a good point, and maybe it's a critique, but I can relate, growing up as a kid, sometimes I still fantasize about this, but I was in the performance arts. And so I thought, I'm going to grow up, I'm going to make it. I'm going to go to Hollywood, or I'm going to go to New York and be on Broadway, or I'm going to be, get signed to a record label. And, everybody has those dreams, right? And I didn't want to be a doctor. That's what I wanted to do. And so I made life choices and educational choices that would take me down that road. Right. And I didn't end up there. And there's a lot of people that have that, and then get told, not everybody makes it. It's not, And so as we get older, we see it as not very accessible. Like there's a lot of hurdles in the way. And so we talk ourselves into
There's probably less hurdles now than there was.
And that's what I'm saying. There was hurdles. And so we talk ourselves into some other kind of career. Whereas now all you need is a cell phone and an account, and you can be a YouTuber, and so kids that want to be these successful YouTubers, it's not as such of a high goal in the sky anymore. And but that's a false sense, because it does take work. It does take a lot of
still
skill.
there for sure.
It takes growing an audience and engaging that audience, and
most importantly, it takes time.
And they get caught on the viewer count and find their self-worth in that viewer count falsely.
Yeah. Well, that brings me up to a question, and Rick, you kind of mentioned on this a little bit about maybe more views, just fixing this thing. What makes good content? Is you as a person who's viewed it and viewed different niches and found different people that you really like and gravitate to, what do you think constitutes as good content to be found on YouTube?
Well, the thing is as being in video production, a lot of the video people, they're all about Vimeo anyway. Like Vimeo is a competitor to YouTube, and it's higher quality video. Like it's what professionals would use. The lighting, everything is just like, it's better quality. But YouTube is, it's just more about the personalities and the counts, and it's just been monetized a lot better. So as far as beauty's in the eye of the beholder and everything, it's just, I think that something that makes it good, in my mind, the thing, I don't want to come from like a moral standpoint or whatever, but something that's entertaining, but it's also like educational, informative, like that's what Rhett and Link, they hit all three of they hit that every time, and they've created it. They came from North Carolina, like going to church when they grew up. Like they're not making trash to get a bunch of views and like, taint young kids and make money off of them. There's so many people out there that are doing that on YouTube now, and they're in their 20s and they're doing this, and like they don't know the wake that they're leaving. I know I'm going to sound like an old grumpy man, but so in my mind, and I still watch, like Danny Duncan is a YouTuber right now who's really huge, and he has a huge brand. He's got the Virginity Rocks brand. I'm sure you've probably seen it. You've seen their shirts around, but like his videos are, he can get away. He's like Steve-O was to my friends when we were in high school. Gotcha. Steve-O could do the dumbest stuff, and like we would do that too, but he can get away with it, and everyone else, you're just following along with Steve-O. And so there's a lot of Steve-Os out there doing. The other thing right now on YouTube is like money is such a huge part of people building their audience, and they just like, whether it's Mr. Beast, who's one of the more popular YouTubers, where he does all these very generous things, which is great. But on the backside of that is, I think young people, when they watch that, because that's a big part of his audience is young people, they then think the only way I can get back to society is to be able to give money. And I don't think that's the best thing to be teaching kids. It'd be easier to, do the things that are not as glamorous, clean up, do things that are, better for the community. It doesn't have to be giving money. A lot of the times it has nothing to do with that at all. And a lot of the times it's something that can't be filmed. You're just doing it in the moment. There's something something is wrong. Someone needs to you need to hold the door for somebody in a wheelchair. You do it. You don't get your phone out and film it. Like, anyway, so that's the other thing now. It's like these people and a lot of them, you wonder how much money they even have. They're throwing around so much. Mr. Beast is one. Steve Will Do It is another that it's just not. I'm just glad I'm not in high school right now, or going into high school, or a parent of a kid that's that age where like, oh gosh, that's what you're watching. I know what's going to happen. You're not that guy. Don't be that person.
That's those are some excellent points. I did want to. You briefly mentioned to us about making some projects you did for your grandparents after their passing. What do you think is maybe some of the therapy that goes into maybe creating content during these moments of these trying times?
Well, I love making. I was lucky enough to make videos for a living, and I had a great mentor teach me on the job, and I it's a creative outlet. It's a creative outlet, and as with a lot of things, I think YouTube is just a part of it, and it's just a way of sending it or sharing it, but it can be a fickle beast. Is that I don't even know if that's, I'm not an English major, but it can be tricky because it gives you this platform to share it with millions of people, but you can get real defeated, like with podcasts or whatever. You can get defeated because, I don't get those views or those listens, and probably because you picked the wrong people to be on your podcast, like me. That I'm just kidding. No, I think that it's like you have to get over the views and the listens and the hits and make it because you love making it, and that's what, like, videos. It's therapeutic. My great aunt passed away, and I got to make a video for her, and with other people, Mother's Day and things like that. It's like a gift, and I think a lot of people like to be able to receive gifts that aren't just from the store. I'm sounding like a Hallmark card over here.
No, I think
it's just a creative outlet.
I think what's I tell people a lot about. They ask why I tell everyone they should do a podcast, and the reason why I tell everyone to do a podcast is it's really important to do something intentional every once in a while. And intentional, like, yes, for all of you wondering, can you make money making content online? Sure, you can. Everyone knows that. Whether it's a podcast, whether it's a YouTube channel, there is a way to make money doing it, of course. But sometimes just doing something intentionally without the intent of trying to make a buck at the end of it, and just saying, I'm going to have an intentional conversation, or I'm going to, in your case, like creating a video that's from the heart that honors this person. Those are very therapeutic activities that are, I think, good for us, and we probably need more of.
Yeah. I wanted to start a podcast, but it's called Nepotism.
Oh, there you go.
Wow. It's not coming out yet. It's just about nepotism, and because I'm part of a family business, and just go around to different family businesses.
That's interesting.
I've got a list of
That's
stuff.
That's a great idea.
That's a great idea. You need to do that. I'm telling you right now.
Well, the list is long of things I'd like to do.
Sure.
That's fair.
Well, I'll help you do it if you want.
There you go.
I mean, that's a good idea.
All right, good.
So we always end the podcast the same way. We ask the same couple of questions. We've talked about the first quite a bit already, but if we want to kind of sum it up here at the end, what are some critiques you have for YouTube and the YouTube community?
I think find the ambassadors of each area and let them kind of monitor. Reddit is a good example of someone who does that well. There are some creepy areas of Reddit, but maybe hand it over to figure out a way to not police it, but let people create, but also make sure that they're not doing stuff that's terrible.
Yeah, I think Reddit's a good example. Twitch does this really well too. Reagan and I were recently featured on a Twitch channel, and while the creator was having this discussion with us, he had people in his chat moderating the chat for him.
I love it.
I think that's a really good suggestion, kind of a moderator type model for YouTube. I think that something I had never thought of, but I think that's real smart.
That's great. Well, because even, Google, Alphabet, whatever, may claim to have restrictions and monitor, but they can't see everything, and computers can't see everything. There's ways to slip by and slip underneath that. And so having humans employed from the community, not from the company,
attached to that creator
to go and monitor those things and guide. That's a great idea.
The second question, the follow-up to that, is what does the future hold? What are some of the positives that are coming down the pipeline?
I think that people are still going to be making things, and I don't know. I mean, I was going to say a aggrandizing thing that I was going to make some new content, but
what about saying that? Yeah, what about I think you mentioned too, like sports on YouTube and original.
Yeah. I think doing like well, obviously YouTube and Google has figured out a way to like stream sports, literally like the majors, NFL, NBA, all of that. But I think they could get into covering more unique and esoteric sports like the Ocho does on ESPN, where they're covering cornhole and like the lorry driving competition. I think they could dip into that, and they may already. The company is so huge, I have no idea what's going on. I mean,
I
think that'd be exciting.
I think that's an interesting way to go there. I think no matter what, as much as there have been competitors that kind of come on the scene, again, we talk about TikTok being short form media or Twitch, competing. You have these live stream interaction stuff like that. But YouTube's going to survive, and it's going to continue to grow, though I think the model will shift. I think, no matter how much it wants me to, I'm not signing up for YouTube Red. Nope. Like, it's not going to happen.
I know, right?
But it will, I think the model might change slightly, but I think you're still going to find people making cool stuff on the internet.
Yeah, and I think that's what's important to me, is that it continuing that community aspect where regular old people can be content creators. That is at the heart of what YouTube is. Despite streaming and adding YouTube originals and adding, live TV and sports, that's all great. But I think it's important to look forward to content creators and how that continues to be at the heart of it. But then also innovation is key. I mean, YouTube was an innovation in a lot of ways. And so I think it's important for them, and hopefully they'll do this, and I hope that maybe this is the future for them, that they will create something else instead of responding to what's out there. Instead of, adapting to, Facebook and Instagram adapted to TikTok because it was the new hot thing. So they had created IG Reels. I'm sure YouTube or Twitch is going to try to come up with some sort of short form media. But what I would like to see is for YouTube to be the one
to create the next big thing,
the next thing, because that's where they started.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, Rick, we appreciate you talking with us. Can you tell everybody what you got going on, where they can find you, and what's happening?
Well, I'm just am I Rick Appleyard 11 on Instagram? I'm just on Facebook. I have too many things going on. One is the handle. It's thehandlenews.com. It's a fake news site.
Cool.
I hardly ever post on it. I've got an invention. It's called the cross paddle. The cross with an E paddle.com. And that's like a paddleboard paddle and a lacrosse stick put together.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. That was a sport I tried to invent. And it's
water.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. No, I dig it. I can see where I can see the potential.
We could do it. We could do a fantastic people meet up and do a game.
Yeah.
Test it out.
Whenever. Anyway, I've tossed around the idea, pun intended, of doing like a kayak version of that. But I don't know. Anyway, it's a rabbit hole right now. Gotcha. The future for me, I'm debating. This is going to sound ridiculous. Starting a country music band.
Cool.
This is new to the world, and it's Florida-Alabama line or border. I'm not sure. We're going to have to work it out.
There you go. Workshop it a little bit. Yeah.
And as opposed to like the two dudes, one guy's a Panama City and Florida Georgia line, right? This is just going to be me, I think. And
I like
it's
this.
kind of a back and forth. And one guy's like the conservative redneck, and the other guy's not as conservative. And they basically just tear each other apart. And
I see the potential.
that's as far as I've gotten.
That's funny.
I'll let you know when the album drops.
Yeah, we're excited to listen.
Yeah, we'll do a listen.
A follow up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So real quick, I'm curious about the Handle News. So that's like it's a fake news site, and is that where is it? What's the news based on?
Well, mostly local, Panhandle. So the handle is the Panhandle, like of Florida. Mostly local. It ebbs and flows. The ideas ebb and flow, and actually, as of late, I've been doing like fake ads because we're in advertising. So
you work in ad.
I've always loved SNL. Like some of the best SNL skits that are like funny across the political spectrum are the ads.
Yeah.
You know, and so I've been doing some of those because sometimes people are like, what? If they don't live here, anyway, I don't get that many hits, but it's another one of those creative outlets where I haven't really done it to get hits. I just do it it's not to mess with people. It's just like, I guess to mess with people.
Yeah. You make them laugh.
I've always been, I guess some people get it. Others don't.
That's true. In the age of that we live in. Yeah. Well, not just that, the internet, it's hard to distinguish what's real and what's fake anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I think it's that will be one of the songs on Florida.
Oh, there you
Alabama
go. Yeah.
Or AKA Ranger plus Rick or Ranger Rick. That's I'm trying to work out I'm shopping it right now. But
workshop.
That's good.
One of the songs just be lighten up, we just got to lighten up basically. Because mental health and everything, it's like it's so important because it's easy to get bogged down and beat yourself up and beat the people up around you emotionally. So just lighten up. I'll send you the track once I'm
excited to hear it, Rick. It's been great talking to you, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Hey there. You are still listening. Did you forget to turn it off? No? You like our voices that much, huh? Cool. Maybe you're still mowing the lawn or doing dishes and your phone is somewhere else. It's okay because I've got great news for you. When you get over to where your phone is, before you do anything else, don't start an episode of a different podcast because there is so much more to this conversation, but unfortunately, there was not enough room or time to leave it here. So, we've put the completely raw, unedited version of this conversation on our Supercast feed. Now that you've made it back to your phone, tap over to fantasticpeoplepod.supercast.tech to hit play on the raw version of this episode and many other behind-the-scenes moments with our previous guests.